Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Cheyenne Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheyenne Malone. You're watching another edition of The Small Business Show, which is exclusively on ASBN.com and now streaming on Roku, Fire Stick, and Apple TV. Well, you've probably heard of demographics, right? But have you ever heard of Valuegraphics? Probably not. I hadn't until today. It's a method of marketing designed to take your business to the next level. Joining us now, author and owner of Valuegraphics, David Allison. Thanks so much for joining us today, David. I want to talk to you about Valuegraphics. It's got my attention. Describe what it is and what it means.
Okay, so I like the way you queued that up. Thank you. Demographics is a thing that we all understand. We all know what it's about. It's about putting labels on groups of people and saying, all right, these folks, they may be men, they make this much money, they're married, they're single, they have education, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Valuegraphics is also a way of putting labels on groups of people and saying, what do they have in common, just like demographics. But instead of it being outward facing stuff that we can see, it's about what's inside their hearts. It's about what's their values. So one group of people might have a set of values that are about environmentalism, personal growth, and ambition, whereas another group of people might have a set of values that have something to do with friendships and family and, let's say, personal responsibility. There's 56 values, and using the Valuegraphics database, we can figure out which values apply to which groups of people, so you know what's really going on inside instead of just what's on the outside.
So you think that's more important than demographics? Or evenly?
Infinitely more important. Because demographics don't really tell you anything about people except what you can see, right?
Sure.
It might be you and I, we're different ages, we're different genders, we got different amounts of pigment in our skin. We would never be in the same demographic category, but we could be twins on the inside in terms of how we see the world. We could be long lost brother and sister. And if we're trying as marketers and small business owners to understand what makes people tick, I want to know what makes people who they really are on the inside, not superficial stuff about who they are on the outside.
Gosh, it makes you wonder. You could apply this to real life too. It reminds me of the love language, right? When you have friends that have like certain love languages that, cater to this, and you'll be money and you ask a question or you need something. How can small businesses take advantage of Valuegraphics?
Well, the first thing we got to do is remember to ask the right questions. So small businesses spend a lot of time, or they should be spending a lot of time, trying to figure out who their customers are. It's got to be the fundamental first step in anything that they do. So we send out surveys, we do all that kind of stuff, but we always ask the wrong questions. We say, what gender are you? What's your marital status? How much money do you make? And really, once you find that stuff out, what are you going to do with it? Let's say you find out your audience is 73% female. What are you going to do? Make everything pink? Like it just, it doesn't really lead you to any kind of conclusions, right? So then you ask them, the other set of questions everybody asks is about themselves. How much do you like my product? How many times do you buy my product? What about my product would you tell your friends about? We like asking questions about that, but what we never ask questions about is them. What wakes you up in the middle of the night? What makes you scared? What do you love most in the course of your day? Why do you go to work every day? What are, all the important things about themselves? So ask those questions. Try and understand what's really inside their hearts. And now you got some stuff you can really use, because if you keep hearing over and over that your audience is all about their family, well, now you got to tell them stories about how your product gives them more time with their family. You got to understand what's really going on inside them, inside with their own decision-making processes. And that's all about their values.
So personal and deep, which there you can make that connection, right? Talk about Valuegraphics as it stands for different industries or maybe different size businesses. Is there one fit better than the other, or is it working across the board?
Works across the board, B2B, B2C, small, medium, large, doesn't matter, because all business is just about people. It's just about trying to get some people to do something you want them to do. And the human brain is actually hardwired from the moment you get up in the morning to the moment you go to bed at night. You're just chasing values alignment. You're trying to find as many things as you can in the course of your day that are aligned with your values. So if you understand what that alignment is, and you just point out how you're going to give people that values alignment, you're going to win. And it's really that simple.
When you apply Valuegraphics to your marketing strategy, let's say for your business, any drawbacks, any pitfalls?
Well, one pitfall is trying to convince other people that this makes sense, because not everyone else will have listened to this interview that you and I are doing today, or bothered to buy a copy of my book, or thought beyond the entrenched ways that we tend to think about people, which is demographics and psychographics. So the biggest pitfall is just trying to convince everybody that there's a better way. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I have 3 quick questions I'd like to throw out so that people can use Valuegraphics and without having to buy my book or talk to my company. There's 3 questions you can ask your clients, your customers, your prospects, your staff, whoever you're trying to understand. And if you listen to their answers, you'll start to hear what their values are. You can use this for your friends at your next dinner party too, and figure out what their values are. So the first question is, why do you go to work every day? People will start to tell you it's for their paying their bills, or because they just want to make sure their kids have a better life than they did. Or so why do you go to work? Second question, you just won the lottery. Why would you give away half of your winnings? That gets into a really deep rooted conversation about why do you do these big things in your life? And the third question, which is my favorite, if you got to say something to yourself, got to write a letter to yourself from 10 years ago, what would you say? And why would you say those things? So all 3 of those questions lead us back to these deep-rooted, why are you doing these enormous things in your life? And those whys, the answer to those whys, those are our values. So use those 3 questions, listen to the answers, you'll start to get a sense of what people's values are.
Love that. Makes total sense. So when you talk about Valuegraphics, the future, where do you see it landing? And especially as it relates to marketing.
Well, as it relates to marketing, as it relates to the world, as it relates to all of us, because here's the thing, if we keep using demographics to try and understand each other, we're going to continue reverting to stereotypes when it comes to the products and services and messages and marketing that we do. Back to my previous example, 73% of your target audience is female. What are you going to do? Make everything pink? We laugh about that, but then we go into a toy store and we look at the pink toys and the blue toys. It's happening all around us. We use stereotypes based on demographics because we think that's somehow an insight into who people are. And those stereotypes, those are propping up ageism and racism and sexism and homophobia and all those other demographic ways of thinking about each other. So my big goal for the future is that if we can all just start to look at each other through a values-driven lens instead of a demographic lens, we're going to be doing way better for our companies. We're going to feel way better about ourselves. And we can also make the world just a little bit of a friendlier, less divisive place while we're doing it. And for marketers, that isn't always the case. It's wonderful to have a twofer. You can do better at work, and you can do better by yourself, for yourself, and better for the world. It's a good feeling to be able to embrace something that can actually change things for the better.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are looking, they've been so demographic focused and they're looking to branch out and maybe try some of these tips and methods with Valuegraphics? How do they transition into that?
Well, the easiest thing is just to use those 3 questions and give it a try.
Okay.
What do you got to lose, right? If you're sending out a survey to your folks anyway, to your people, whoever it is you're trying to engage and motivate and inspire, ask those 3 questions, listen to the answers and go, everybody seems to be talking about personal growth. These are folks who are all really focused on being a better version of themselves. So how can I tell stories about my product or service or brand that show them that we're going to help them on that journey that they're all on? And stop looking at groups and saying, well, these are the rich people, these are the poor people, these are the young people, these are the old people, because it doesn't really tell you anything about who people are and what's making them say yes, which I assume is the goal for most businesses, is you want to hear a lot of yes and not a lot of no.
You are so passionate about this topic, and I love it. I love the way you break it down and kind of walk us through everything. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your background, David.
Well, I grew up in marketing. I had my own marketing firm, and I got really frustrated because we would, figure out a target audience for our clients, and then we'd go and spend $1 million and get a bunch of people to do something. And then I'd look at who did that thing and go, who are you? You're not the target audience I thought. We all said we were chasing baby boomers who earn $200,000 a year and have a white collar job. And then all these other people show up that we didn't even have a strategy in place for them. Why are they here? So that's what led to this, was just this repeat realization that our target audiences, as defined demographically, were not the folks who were responding to the things that we did. So we had to go and figure that out. So yeah, I come at this from a marketing perspective, but there isn't much going on in the world or in the world of business that isn't about trying to understand people and get them to do something you'd like them to do. It doesn't matter what function, it's marketing, sales, human resources, recruitment, workplace engagement, everything that businesses have to contend with is ultimately about understanding people. Now we have this new way that we can understand people based on their values. I would be a lousy entrepreneur if I didn't slide this in here somewhere. Our company, what we do when we work with clients, we've gone around the world and built a database of core human values. We've done close to 1 million surveys now in 152 different languages across 180 countries. And we've measured and mapped the core values of everyone on Earth. And it's never been done before. We now know what everybody on the planet cares about so much that it's driving all their decisions and all their behaviors and emotions. And so we can segment that for a client and say, you know what, you're trying to sell, I don't know, electric cars. Cool. Your kind of electric car, the people who are interested, here's their values. So build that into the way you make your product. If it's a personal growth audience, that's one of their values, how can that electric car have features in it that are going to give people a sense that it's making them a better version of themselves? How can you use that information for your marketing? How can you use that information for everything you have? So we do this very, very precisely with more accuracy than you need for a PhD for our clients. And when I'm speaking on stages all over the place. But those 3 questions I shared earlier, that's the sort of back of a napkin sketch way that anybody can access this same line of thinking without it having to be paying me to do anything, because we just want the whole world to start thinking this way. That's our big mission.
I love it. All right. Well, David, Allison, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I love your passion, your good vibes everywhere. And now I've got some fun, table topic questions for my next dinner party. Thanks so much. Author and owner of Valuegraphics, David Allison.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Cheyenne Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.